So thank you guys for joining me for my Yin sequence. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about what I did and why I did it. So I started in melting heart. A lot of that is with your Anahata chakra and opening up your chest, opening up that chakra. That can be a bit of a back bend, so counteracting that into a balasana or just a child's pose rounds your spine. So it counteracts the extension to giving you a little bit of that forward fold, that rounding of the spine. All of the poses I tried to stick within about 4 minutes. A couple of the counter poses I did like a minute or 2 minutes at the most. After melting heart, moved into butterfly with a forward fold. In all of the poses as well, I used some props. You don't have to use props, but you can use your bolster, some blocks. They can be cork or foam or whatever material that your blocks are made out of. And you can also use a blanket, and the blanket's really nice and comfortable, especially for a restorative type yoga class for your sits bones, and can just be really helpful in all of the poses. So after the butterfly with a forward fold, moved into reclined deer. And reclined deer, that gives you a little bit of a twist to each side of your body. So then to counteract that, just a little bit of the windshield wipering of the legs, just to loosen things up again after we've twisted from side to side. Then moved into our frog pose. Frog can be quite a bit on our knees, so using props, using a blanket, rolling up the sides of your mat, any of those things can be beneficial. It really gives you some extension through your legs, through your feet, and to counteract that, back in child's pose. Child's pose can really almost be a counter pose for any of these, because it's really just a restorative, nice posture, just connecting you back down into the earth, letting your body be in a completely restful position. After that, moved on to saddle pose. Saddle pose can be quite intense on the knees, so you can always take just one-legged saddle. I actually teach Yin quite a bit, and I have a student that instead of coming down into saddle, she comes into the position of saddle. She brings a bolster right underneath, right on her calves, and then right underneath her sits bones, and she sits down on to the bolster. Then she takes 2 blocks and will place one here, and she stays in her saddle pose just like this, which is totally fine. It's really about working these connective tissues through your legs, through your knees, and it's not necessary that you recline. I often recline, but it's not a necessity. And after saddle pose, to counteract that pose, we came onto our belly and windshield wipered the legs, so loosening up those legs again. Why we came onto the belly instead of just coming onto a supine pose is because we were coming into our Sphinx pose. So from Sphinx to Seal, so about 2 minutes in Sphinx, 2 minutes in Seal, so playing with the back bend. So a tiny back bend in Sphinx and a much more extended back bend in Seal. And again, to counteract that pose, child's pose. After that, we came into our squat, our Malasana, staying in our squat for about 4 minutes, playing with the arms, playing with keeping your hands to heart center, but if that becomes too much tension in your wrists or your hands, letting your hands just dangle, your arms just dangle, hanging low. After that, because of being in that squat position and having that pressure on your ankles and your feet, we counteracted that one by tucking our feet, sitting on our feet, playing with that ankle stretch, just about 30 seconds in our ankle stretch. Our next pose was sleeping swan. We came into an actual standing pose, which is rare in Yin, so we came into our downward facing dog in order to propel that leg forward. So swan pose on the right side, swan pose on the left side, and again, child's pose as our balancing, restorative grounding counter pose. Our next was twisted roots. So that is eagle. So eagle legs, and you're going to twist to the right, gazes to the left, twisting to the left, gazes to the right. Nice supine twist, just to play on that, just using eagle legs instead of keeping your legs stacked or any of those other alternatives. After that one, we moved into our legs up the wall. and stayed in our legs up the wall for about 4 or 5 minutes. We used a block in order to give ourselves that lift, that natural lift, using a block right on our sacrum, right before our tailbone, and then countered that by coming to our reclined butterfly, our Baddha Konasana, supine Baddha Konasana, then stayed there for just a couple nice deep inhales and exhales for about a minute, and then moved into our final resting pose, our Shavasana, opening that up to whatever pose or whatever form of Shavasana is beneficial to each student. So thank you guys for checking out my video, and I look forward to any feedback. Thank you so much.